Recording in progress for those that missed, but welcome everybody. I am very, very excited about this Dental Sleep Profits webinar this week. We have FISCHER-HERDT from DS3 4-pillar billing joining us. She is going to do a massive knowledge drop on us to help you guys overcome your dental sleep medicine billing woes. There are plenty of them to speak of, and hopefully coming away from this, you're going to have some ammunition or at least some strategic plans to help you get paid, overcome the obstacles that medical insurance puts in your way of treating your patients the best way that you can. So Lisa, welcome. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be glad to do that. So who am I? So these 8 amazing humans on the screen, they call me Ma. So they are some of my favorite people in the world. So these are my grandchildren. So I have 8 grandchildren. I love their parents too. You know, they're my kids, but I love their parents as well. But they're pretty special to me. So I love to learn, and I guess I'm in the right industry because medical billing is ever changing. Every time you think that you have the rules and the regulations and you're just humming along and things are going well, they'll change a rule or they'll add something, or now another hoop you have to jump through. I learned a long time ago, I'm really good at playing games as long as I know what the rules are. I'm really good. So just making sure that we're staying up to date on those rules. So I have about 27 years of medical billing experience. I started out at Humana, so I've been on both sides. I've been in an insurance company and I've also been in a practice. I've always found myself in these little unique industries. So I worked at an ambulance company for about 7 years before I transferred to Dental Sleep Solutions. And we did no 911 runs. And everybody's always asking me, how do you work at an ambulance company and never do a 911 run?
Is that is that non-emergency? Is that what that is?
Yeah, we weren't even a 911 call center. We only did non-emergency transports, which we transported to dialysis, discharges to nursing home, radiation, chemotherapy, and we did 13,000 runs a month. Ooh. We were busy. We were hopping. So I taught at ATA College for several years as well before I transitioned to Dental Sleep Solutions. And the most popular question that I get after I tell everybody about all my experience in my 5 years at Dental Sleep Solutions and 4-pillar billing, the first thing they ask me is, where are you from? That's always the question that I get, is where are you from? So I am from Louisville, Kentucky. So that's where the accent comes from. And I always say, I don't have an accent, y'all do. So, so that's a little bit about me. So what we're going to talk about tonight are several different things. And when Todd reached out to me, he said, Lisa, can you give me like the top 3 things, you know, that really go on with billing that cause issues? And I was like, just 3? You want me to pick just 3? Okay, well, now I got to work on narrowing all of this stuff down. So the biggest questions that we get all the time are, should I be in network or out of network? What do I need to do? And how do I go about it? What are the pros and the cons? And there's a lot of things around that. Decide the next steps if the patient's benefits are really high or there are no deductibles. What do you do with those? Because then insurance not really available, right? So what do you do with those patients? And how to explain insurance benefits to a patient. So these are some of the topics that we really get questioned about all the time. And when you start talking about medical insurance, this is immediately what people think. It's backbreaking and time consuming, and it's not fun and it's not easy. And I don't disagree. You just have to learn to work within the parameters or the hoops that they lay out and the hurdles they make you jump through. So the best thing, what we recommend, the best thing to do when you get started is don't depend on insurance to be the end all be all. It's not going to save everything. It's just a tool. The other thing is use or find someone that understands how to navigate already through the process. They'll understand. I would not recommend self-billing to anybody starting out in the industry for at least 9 months, because you're going to be getting so many other things in place. You're going to have to get a software. You're going to have to get a team established. You're going to have to figure out a lab, a process for those patients? What's your flow going to be? What devices am I going to select? All these things. And if you add this onto your staff, you're going to be hiring. You're going to be finding someone that's going to have to fill those shoes, because you can't add one more thing to the plate. So that's the biggest thing. Don't depend on insurance to be your saving grace and to be your remedy for all things to make it work. It's a tool, simply a tool. Okay. So is this what medical billing feels like? Yep. I have my team sits in an office, and this is what some of them look like day in and day out, arguing with insurance companies to get things paid. Todd and I were talking a few minutes ago, and I've got one of my billing coordinators, Rebecca. She's really good at telling them, quit talking, quit saying words to me. I know your job better than you do. Nope. That's not the right answer. Put supervisor on. We have to fight for these things to get paid. And I tell people all the time, being a medical biller is one of the most unthanked jobs that there is, because when you file a claim, what's your expectation? Well, I'm going to get paid. How do I ever exceed that expectation? I can't get you paid more. I can't get you paid quicker than the insurance company issues a payment. So how do I exceed those expectations? If the claim doesn't get paid, then obviously I didn't do something right. How do you combat that? So it's not a glamorous job to have either. It's not always fun for us either. So when we get some of those claims paid, it's a big deal to us internally, especially if we have to do an appeal or something like that. We're jumping around for joy, saying we finally got that paid. And most of the offices go, thank you. And we're like, okay, because they don't know everything.
Now that all my hair's gray.
Yeah, they don't know everything that goes into it and all the obstacles and things that we have to fight for. So insurance companies are just not your friend. So most offices feel like being in network is the answer to everything. If I could just get in network, that's all I need. I just need an in-network agreement, and that'll solve all my problems. Well, there's hurdles with that. It's a lengthy process to become an approved provider. It took me 3 years to get Dr. Yatros an in-network Blue Cross Blue Shield agreement. Then guess what? There's a little caveat in that Blue Cross Blue Shield of Florida agreement that says, regardless of AHI, everybody has to try CPAP and fail. One more obstacle. But he has an in-network agreement, but now he's seeing fewer patients with Blue Cross Blue Shield than he was before he had an in-network agreement, because he's having to send all of them back to their primary care doctor to try to get a CPAP trial. They don't come back.
Yeah.
So it's not the answer. Some companies won't even allow dentists to be an approved provider for this. Now they will ENTs. What's an ENT going to do? So you run into that challenge, and those are regional specific. Some states, usually Blue Cross Blue Shield, they are a thorn. Blue Cross Blue Shield is different by every state. And some states like Arizona and New York have 3 different Blue Cross Blue Shield providers in the area. So then you have 3 different obstacles with those. You have to abide by the contractual agreements. So if it comes back and you have $1,100 as an in-network agreement, you have to write off the rest of those balances. You can't balance bill the patient, except for their co-insurance or copay. It is an easier billing system because you know what the allowables are. It makes the conversations easier. You can calculate out how much the patient's benefits are going to be, and the math gets easy. And people typically say yes to in-network billing. So everybody wants to navigate to an in-network contract. They just don't make it easy. Patients have a smaller deductible if they're in network as well. So those are things that help, but there's pros and cons to everything. And you have to balance out what the pros and cons are and how you're going to navigate through those. So let's talk about out of network. You have more flexible billing practices. And what I mean by that is technically by law, since you're not in an agreement or a contract, you could bill your patient up to your full billed amount. Now, I'm not saying do that, but I'm saying that you could. So you have a way that you could actually get more money in-house if you're out of network. And the strange thing is the reimbursements or the allowed amounts are usually higher out of network than they are in network. I don't know why, but why are they? But they are. because the insurance companies for in-network tell you they're going to send you so many patients. When I did Dr. Yatros's in-network agreement, the representative that I was talking to, she was like, "Oh, Lisa, we're just going to send Dr. Yatros so many patients." I was like, how many patients do you think you're going to be able to send us? "Oh my gosh, there's going to be a ton of them." I said, "Okay." I said, "Let's test that theory. Let me get you on a three-way call with the insurance company." So we called customer service, told the representative who I was, gave her all my insurance information, and said, "I'm looking for an in-network provider that can provide me with dental sleep therapy underneath my DME benefits." Okay. She sent me to a brick and mortar storefront that was selling wheelchairs and crutches. I said, "There is no way that you're going to provide me with any steerage because it's too specific for anybody in customer service to steer me, steer a patient to us." So there are more diligent systems. Your conversation with your patients can be a little more difficult. So you have to be confident. A lot of it comes down to confidence in what you're doing and what you're saying. You can apply for a gap or an in-network waiver if there aren't any in-network providers in the area, but they're making that even more difficult now. They try to tell us that the primary care physician or the patient has to initiate gap. Primary care physicians don't know anything about it. And to initiate gap, you have to have an NPI number, a tax ID number, a diagnosis code, a CPT code, or a HCPCS code. You have to have all that. So we started writing out scripts for these primary care doctors and patients to tell the insurance company because it's stuff that they have to have. That's just changed in about the last 2 years because we used to be able to get them all the time. Rules always change. As soon as we get something going really well, they change the rules on us. And that's just the way the insurance industry works. Medicare is a little bit different. I encourage everyone to be a Medicare provider. It's probably the right thing to do. And the reason being is it's easier billing process for the providers as well. But you still have to make some decisions when you sign up for Medicare. You have to either opt out saying, "I'm never going to bill Medicare. I'm not going to treat Medicare patients and file claims. They won't either." And you have to sign an affidavit saying, "I'm opting out of being a Medicare provider." As soon as you become a medical provider, if you sign up with medical insurance, you have to fill out that affidavit with Medicare saying, "I'm either going to be a provider or I'm opting out." That opting out lasts for 2 years. That means you cannot become a Medicare provider for 2 years after you opt out. So still decisions you have to make. Then once you are a Medicare provider, you have to decide if you want to be participating or non-participating. We typically suggest non-participating because you can still balance bill if you're non-participating. Once you say, "I'm a participating provider," you are locked in to accept their payment as payment in full. So there are still hurdles that you have to jump through with them. So Todd, do you have any questions or thoughts or opinions so far?
Yeah, on the participating versus non-participating,
Mhm.
when it's my understanding, when you're a non-participating provider, you are able to bill the patient directly. Medicare
Yes.
sends the check to the patient, but then you can also bill secondary insurance or supplemental afterward,
Correct.
right?
Yes, you can. And in some instances, if you do not accept assignment of benefits, which you wouldn't if you are non-participating, you can though. Participating means you can switch back and forth. So let's go down the path of payment to patient. I'm not going to accept assignment of benefits. The payments are going to go to the patient from Medicare. You can file to their supplemental or their secondary insurance. And in some instances, depending on what that supplemental policy is, it could pay up to your full billable fee. So if they have TRICARE for life, a supplemental plan F or G is in George, those will pay up to your full billed fee. So you could get up to your total billed amount between those two insurances.
Okay.
So let's say that you have a patient of record that comes in and has been with you for 30 years. And you know that patient has Medicare, they have a supplemental policy, and you know that they don't have a good supplemental policy. If you want to do them a favor and accept assignment of benefits as a non-participating provider, you can do that on a case-by-case basis. Then the payments will come to you and the patient won't have any out-of-pocket expense.
Okay.
So you
That's good
can
information.
yeah, so you can opt to do that for certain patients if you want to do that. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. And even if they don't have a good supplemental policy and you did not accept assignment of benefits, you can still balance bill that patient up to a certain dollar amount with Medicare. There's no thing that says, no regulation or LCD that says that you can't balance bill that patient up to a certain dollar amount. So you still can balance bill anyway. So there's a lot of options with that too. Okay?
Yeah. And if anybody has questions, type it in the chat. It sounds like we'll probably address questions as we go. We'll take little breaks. At the end, we'll have a Q&A session as well.
Yeah.
Another question I had, as far as, because obviously our community is dental sleep profits. Our focus is on accelerating practice growth. What is the quickest way for someone to generate revenue through billing insurance? Would you be a non-participating Medicare provider, or would you opt out, or would you be a participating provider? What's the quickest way to grow revenue?
I think that in my experience, the quickest way to grow revenue, number one, is to be non-participating, because then you can switch, accept assignment of benefits or not. You can make that change. You can set what your max out-of-pocket expense, which we'll talk about financial agreements in just a minute too, and how important they are to set that max out-of-pocket expense for the patient. That provides the patient with transparency. That's probably one of the quickest ways. But what I'd like to focus on too is, again, insurance is not your sole going to be your winner for everything. The biggest thing that we see is simply the dentists need to get started. Just get started. The first 10 patients, if you're not credentialed with insurance yet and you're not ready to go with that, still treat the patients. It's like they get a taste of it. Now I want to do dental sleep medicine, but we have a lot of people that will say, as soon as I get credentialed, or I take another course, or see another webinar, or I create another device, that's when I'm going to do it.
That's when I'm going to go all in. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't wait. Don't wait, because insurance is just a tool. It's not the end all be all. Get started. Find some devices that aren't overpriced or high priced for lab fees. Start out with some of the cheaper devices, not cheaper as in quality, but cheaper financially. Do a device for $700 or $800, on family, friends, somebody like it. But do it. Just do it. And that's what a lot of people get in their way, because what we like to refer to at work with the patient, with the dentist, that are saying, I need to take one more course, or let me get this done, or I need to do a device on my wife first, or whatever. We call those aimers. They're aiming and they're aiming and they're aiming, but they never pull the trigger. Pull the trigger and get started, because it's very rewarding. It's only going to take one patient to come back and say, I've slept the best I have in years. My spouse is back in the bedroom with me. I feel like $1 million for the dentist to get hooked. It's an addiction, because then you're hooked, and you're going to figure out how to make it happen. There's not one way that fits every office. Insurance may not be the best either. There are some in the state of Texas. The allowable for Blue Cross Blue Shield is $962 in network or out of network, doesn't matter. Don't even bother with it. Fee for service all day long. That's why you need to treat those patients. So you have to figure out in your state, in your area, what's going to work best for you.
Yeah.
So
okay.
If I know that doesn't necessarily have to do with insurance, but insurance is just this tiny piece of this big picture. But my recommendation is get started treating patients immediately.
I agree. I'm very much a ready, fire, aim type person. My wife is aim. So
she's an aimer.
Yeah.
She's
an aimer. This is really good information so far. And like I said, guys, a minute ago, if you have questions, Lisa, are you okay answering like case specific questions, like, oh, I had a patient who has this kind of insurance? Would you be willing to do that at the end in a small part?
Absolutely. I'll be glad to do that. I may have to have a few more, a little more details about some things
Sure.
if we do specific cases, but I can give you probably a really good idea, but no, that would be perfect.
As long as we
So
stay HIPAA compliant, we're not sharing personal info. We're good.
absolutely. So, but my recommendation is non-participating with all insurance companies. That way you can balance bill. Non-participating with Medicare, accept assignment on benefits on a case-by-case basis if you want to do one of your patients a favor. And
Okay.
try to find those people. If you are in an area that has big companies that has a lot of retirees or military, you are almost in a perfect spot to get those TRICARE for life and those TRICARE and things like that. You're in a really good position. So
Yeah.
keep that in mind. Okay.
Okay.
So high deductibles and no coverage. This is what happens a lot. Patients come in out of network. They have a $10,000 out of network deductible. Doctor's like, oh my God, what do I do now? What do I do? Have to have a plan B. Make sure you have a plan B in place. So the average in-network deductible is somewhere between $1,500 and $3,000, $1,500 to $3,000. That's an average. An average out of network is between 5 and 10. If your billable fee is $5,000 out of network, it's a cash fee patient. 34% of patients that are insured have HMO policies, which means there are no out-of-network benefits. So you have to have an option. What are you going to do with these patients that have no out-of-network benefits, or they have a huge out-of-network deductible? What are you going to do with them? You can't just say, sorry, I don't know what to do. So that's what I'm saying. Insurance has a place in some instances as that out-of-network deductible throughout the year starts to go down. But what are your plan to treat those patients? So you always have to have a plan B. So this is what some of the insurance policies are. So we'll start to see some of the flexibility. The most affordable plans, of course, have less flexibility. So it's an HMO policy. Premiums are really cheap typically. So more people have those because premiums are cheaper. You have to have a primary care physician. You have to have a specialist referral and only in-network deductibles. So if you run an instant eligibility check or you check patients' benefits and it's an HMO policy, you immediately know before the patient ever comes in that you're going to have to treat them as fee for service. So you already know before a patient ever comes into the office because there are no options. You're an out-of-network provider. If they're a point of service, and I always tell people that POS means point of service because they always think it means something else and it's not a really good insurance plan. So you can think about that whatever you want to. So you have to have a primary care physician in network and out of network. An EPO or an exclusive provider organization, no out of network benefits. A PPO has more flexible, but the premiums are higher for the member. So you really need to have a way to check those patients' benefits before they ever come into your office. That's going to be a tool that you should use because it's going to tell you, are you even going to be able to use their insurance? Is it even an option? And then you need to find out what those benefits are. So you have to determine that coverage. You need to have some tools in your arsenal. The last resort, in my opinion, is picking up that telephone and calling the insurance company. That's going to take you about an hour of your life you're never going to get back. That's why you need to hire somebody to do this. It's an hour of your life.
Yeah, and what a lot of Dental Sleep Profits members have told me is you should not even consider handling billing in your own office until you're closing a minimum of 7 to 10 cases a month.
Absolutely.
Because because of that reason right there, you won't be able to justify the payroll to have someone on hold for 4 hours a day.
Right. That's why I always say wait about 9 months, because when you're ramping up to get all your other systems in place, by month 6 to 9 is where you should be hitting that 10 devices a month. Then at Dental Sleep Solutions and 4-Pillar Billing, I train you how to use the software to self-bill. That's a service that we provide. So we'll even train you on how to do it. The ultimate goal is for you to be successful and treat patients. But if you started with everything in-house, it's crazy. You're going to overwhelm your current staff. Like you said, if you hire somebody, you can't even justify the payroll increase yet. Yeah. So recommend 6 to 9 months. I wouldn't even do self-billing at all. So some things that you can use, Availity.com, it's free. Navinet.com, free. There is an instant eligibility check. If they're a DS3 client, they have an eligibility check in their software. Also, there are some some clearinghouses that are used for electronic claim submission that have some eligibility check features in them as well. It's easier to do a benefit check online than it is to ever pick up that phone and call somebody. So make sure you're checking those benefits before a patient ever comes in. Worst thing you could do is put a patient in the chair and them say, how much is it going to cost? You're being like, I don't even know if your insurance covers it yet. Be prepared before they get there. Okay. So the estimate of uninsured Americans, 31.1 million. They have no insurance. So what are we going to do for those people that have no insurance coverage at all? You have to have that as an option too. It's a real thing. People don't have insurance. Some aren't working now. Some are, they can't afford it, whatever it may be. But there's 31.1 million Americans that do not have insurance. Now that includes children and things like that too. But that's high. That's really high. So what do you do if you have a patient that comes in that has no insurance coverage? So how do you treat them? What are your options? Fee for service options, right? You can find a lower cost lab fee to treat these patients with. We recommend sometimes using the snore hook. I don't know if people are familiar with that or not, but it's a dental device that you make on a mold in your office that costs probably about 54 bucks. And you can make it in your office. And the snore hook is Medicare approved too, just as a side note. Serena Sleep has devices for about $254. My tap is about 150 or 160, something like that, I think.
I think it's 168.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are some options here that you can do for patients that have high deductibles or have no insurance. So the ultimate goal is what I always like to do is like to stair step people down, you know, have the conversation with them, let them know, oh, Todd, I'm glad that you came in today. Sleep test results look like you're a perfect candidate for a dental device. The bad news is it looks like your insurance doesn't provide you with any coverage. But the great news for you is I have a cash option for you. Oh, okay. Tell me about that. It's going to save you a ton of money. Then I've got your attention. How are you going to save me a ton of money? Well, Todd, if I build your insurance, you have a $5,000 deductible. And if I build your insurance, I'd have to collect that full $5,000 from you. But I can get you treated and started in treatment today, get you in a dental device in about 4 weeks by not using your insurance, and it's going to cost you $700. How's that sound? Well, sign me up. You know, so you have to have these options. Keep something in your back pocket for every single scenario that comes in. It's not a one size fits all, and insurance isn't the key for everybody. Now, if you have somebody that comes in and they have a $1,500 deductible, absolutely use their insurance.
Yeah.
Absolutely use their insurance. But sometimes it's not appropriate. It's not the best thing. So you have to figure out how to have the conversations, when to stair step these people down through the process to make sure somebody doesn't leave your office without a dental device planned for them in the next 4 weeks. So that's the ultimate goal, is to treat. Patients want to know, how much does it cost? What will my insurance cover? That's always comes out of their mouth. Okay, this is great. How much do I have to pay? People get really nervous when you start talking about finances. And I find that odd with dentists, because every time I've gone to the dentist, even if it was a cash option, because maybe my insurance benefits were exhausted, which there's like $1,500 of dental benefits a year, something like that. They'll say, okay, this is going to cost X and this is going to cost Y, and this is how much your total is. Okay. It's the same thing with this. But there's tools that we can give you as well. So what we like to do is we like to start off all of our patients with laying the foundation for them. And we provide this to all of our members when they're first getting started, because this financial conversation causes them so much anxiety. So we have a maximum out-of-pocket calculator. It's an Excel spreadsheet with some formulas built in. We'll take a look at it. It estimates the approximate patient responsibility, helps determine in the practice between fee for service or using the insurance, which is the best option for the patient. You can print it and give it to the patient if you want. and it has preset Excel formulas in it. If people aren't aware, Dr. Yatros went to engineering school before he became a dentist. I don't know how he got there. I don't know that story, but he got there. And he loves spreadsheets and formulas and calculate. He loves all of that stuff.
Mhm.
So we created this for his office. So it's an Excel spreadsheet. I walk through this with most of the providers or the billing coordinators do. And the first thing I ask them is, what is your office goal per case? If you got X number of dollars for everybody that walked through the door, insurance, cash pay, whatever it was, what would that goal be? Okay, let's figure it out. So in this case, we're going to say it's $2,500. So Dr. Wife says, I would love to get $2,500 for every case. That's great. What's the minimal per case or the least amount that you could provide this service for and not really be in the hole? What's the least amount? Oh, I could probably do $1,000. Okay, so we plug in $1,000. What's your office cash fee? Now your office minimum and your cash fee can be the same, but they don't have to be. Because remember, we want to stair step people. So if somebody, you say, well, our office cash fee is $1,500, they're like, I just can't do that. I don't have $1,500. Stair step them down to a lower cost device and say, could you do it for $1,000? How about $1,000? Is that something you could work with? That's where that stair stepping comes in. So once we've calculated this and we've plugged this information in, then this is where it gets really difficult. So our power tool can be really tricky. The estimated insurance amount, how much do you think is the insurance company is going to allow? What I do for the providers, I say, let's a good starting point. Let's start here. You're in jurisdiction C for Medicare. The allowable amount in jurisdiction C is $1,100. Let's add $1,000 to that, and let's get your range of about $2,100 to $1,100 is what you expect. So $2,100 is probably the max, $1,100 is probably the lowest. Most insurance companies don't pay less than Medicare. Some do, but not a lot of them. This is just an estimate. So this is where we start. Once I tell them, we will go ahead and start tracking. We want you to track your allowable amounts on claims when you get paid. Then you will be able to fine tune these numbers for your specific area based on your payers and who the patients that you're seeing. So we usually start them out here. This is where all of the benefits come into play and the calculations start happening. So we always look at the instant eligibility check in DS3 and how much is the patient's deductible, their actual deductible. In this case, it was $5,000. The remaining deductible is $200. That means they've paid towards their out-of-network deductible. The insurance company pays 80% and the patient's responsible for 20%. That's their co-insurance amount. Once you plug that information in, then you get a result in the bottom of this Excel spreadsheet that says, if the insurance company allows $2,100, the insurance estimated payment is $1,520. The patient's estimated out of pocket is $580. Where it says cash fee false, if those figures calculated differently based on what we plugged in initially, saying that cash fee option, then your cash fee price would be displayed in that field. That way you would know to do the cash fee instead, because it's not a good option for the patient. Worst case scenario, if the insurance company allows $1,100, then you're looking at a payment from an insurance company of $720, $380 from the patient, $380. And then the least amount would be $280. So that kind of gives the doctor a range. I always tell them to collect estimated based on the highest allowable amount. So from your patient, you're going to tell them, we're anticipating your insurance to allow approximately $2,100. Now, this is an estimate. We won't know until your explanation of benefit actually comes back to us. We're going to collect your cost share today in the amount of $580. Oh, okay. That we can get you started in treatment. So the maximum amount of pocket that you're going to have to pay is no more than $2,100. So they have a cap now. The patient knows worst case scenario, they're not going to have to pay more than $2,100. If for some reason they allow $1,100, not the 21. You've already told them their max out of pocket is $2,100, and you can collect up to that $2,100 regardless of what the insurance company does. So we like to use this as a tool to start the offices and give them some confidence in the numbers to say. After a while, it'll start flowing. But initially, it's really difficult. They get really nervous when they start talking about this. I encourage all the offices to say this is an estimate. Estimate is an estimate. It's not actual. It's not all you're going to owe. And you always tell them a max dollar amount that they will ever be out of pocket. That helps set the tone for the maximum they'll ever have to pay. So there's a lot of good tools that you need to have in place for that as well. So a lot of dentists, when we start talking about cash fee options, they get really nervous. And I usually see them when I say, oh, you can write things off and give a discount. I usually start to see them shake their head no. They're usually real slow to start going, because you can't do that in dentistry. But in medical insurance, you're expected to do it. The American Medical Association says if there is a barrier to treatment for a patient, you should forgive or waive the co-insurance and the deductible if necessary to get the patient in treatment. So that's a mind shift for dentists. I'm telling you, their staff, immediately I see staff shaking their head no when we start talking about this. So you can do write-offs and you can give discounts from your billable fee to a cash fee option. So it is allowed, okay? So financial agreements. You should have one for every single patient that walks through the door. If you are a DS3 member, I don't know how many are. If you're not, I can send you one of the financial agreements. I have no problems doing that. Get one on every patient that walks through the door. There are some things that you always need to have in place, and financial agreement is one of them. So if you're a DS3 member, they're embedded in your software. If not, Todd, what I'll do is I will send you a sample of one and you can share it with everybody tonight. And that way they'll have one. It goes through and it tells them exactly what to expect. You agree to pay X, collected $580. I'm going to collect $580, right? Because that's what I told them that I was going to collect from today. Then you can fill out if they need to make any payments or anything like that. Then you have an opportunity to be able to fill out exactly what those payment arrangements are for whatever you told them that they were going to pay. They're going to pay $250 now and $230 in 3 weeks. Write it out. Then they have to sign it, right? So it says, this is what I really like. If you decide that you do not wish to move forward with a treatment after impressions, you are responsible for an impressions fee of $580 or whatever you collect from them, whatever you tell them that you're going to collect. That means they can't come back because the dentist, their cost just became real. As soon as I scan you or I take an impression and I send it to a lab and I get a lab bill, my costs are real. So this tells the patient, if you decide not to come back for treatment, I'm keeping that money because I have expenditures. So make sure you have that in there. It says by signing this agreement, that to pay for the services rendered at our office outlined above, and then they have a place to sign it. You need to be able to have something that they can sign. So it's a ton of information and it's chaotic and it's not easy to understand. But the good news is there's a lot of things that we can do to help. So we have a lot of webinars. We have joint ventures with people like Dental Sleep Profits and Todd. We have courses. We have a ton of information that we can do. Some of them are at no expense. Some of them are discounted rates. We also have software and a billing team. Get out and listen to some lectures. I encourage you to use a software. Use a billing company. Doesn't have to be Dental Sleep Solutions. Doesn't have to be 4-pillar billing. Find what works best for you, but find those two things and get started in treating patients today. Don't wait for your medical insurance to get up and running because that's going to take you about 45 days. Medicare is going to take you about 4 months. Don't delay. Get started.
Yeah, one of the things that I liked about seeing you guys down. Well, I saw Albert down at ADSM in Dallas. and he brought a lot of people over to our booth. And the one thing that I don't know medical billing. That is not my area of expertise. The luxury that I have, the only thing I know is that some of our best clients are already using DS3. And that's what I tell them. Like, a lot of people ask me, what billing company should you use? Well, I don't know if you should use DS3. I don't know if you should use that person or this person or this outfit. But what I do know is that a lot of our successful clients are using DS3. So I think that says a lot about you guys, which is why I wanted to have this meeting. Again, if you guys have questions, now would be the time to type those into the chat box, and we can go through those. Lisa, do you have any other? I know when I emailed you, I asked for 3 to 5 of the big complications that frustrate dentists. What are some other ones? Why we'll give some people time to type in the chat box their questions. What are some other things, frustrations that you see, and solutions to those frustrations, maybe?
So I think the biggest thing that we see from frustrations specifically around medical insurance is, one, things are ever changing. Number one, that's frustrating for us. But there are things that we really feel like, and the dentist and their staff really feel like should be deemed medically necessary, and the insurance company just keeps saying no, 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 but they won't tell you why it's not, because they think if they tell you why it is not meeting what they're looking for, that you'll just go and do that and then the claim will pay. So they're not good at sharing information. Most of the insurance companies will tell you, I can't tell you how to get paid. I can't tell you how to file a claim to get billed. I can't tell you that. So they'll come back with denials like not medically necessary. We'll go through and we'll look at all the medical necessity, and we literally check things off. We'll print off medical necessity from their website and say patient's AHI was 6. We'll check it off and we'll send it back and with the appeal saying, here you go. Here's your guidelines. We're meeting them. What's going on? And if we really don't feel like the denial is valid, if it's not a valid denial, we'll do 2 levels of appeal. And then I don't have a problem with filing a Department of Insurance complaint on any insurance company. If I feel like we've checked every box and jumped through every hoop that you've laid down, and I don't see anything that is askew, my team will bring them to me and they're like, we've tried this 3 times. Take a look at this. We'll look at all the medical records. And I'm like, okay, let's highlight this. And I said, let's file a Department of Insurance complaint. That's the worst thing that you can do to an insurance company, is because they do not want the DOI poking around.
Yeah.
So if I really feel like we have a leg to stand on, then I'm going to do an appeal, and I'm going to appeal to the Department of Insurance. The other thing that we really like to do too is, if we see something ahead of time, so let's say a claim gets denied and we get ready to do an appeal, and we know that they want a specific piece of documentation or they're looking for something specific, we don't just appeal with what we have. We go back to the office and say, hey, do you have additional medical records from a primary care doctor that shows that they have a latex allergy versus they just say they have a latex allergy? Do they take medication for a chronic sinus infection since they've been on a CPAP and that's why they can't use the CPAP any longer? And then we try to really dig and find as much ammunition as we can before we do the appeal, because once you've exhausted those, you're stuck. You're kind of stuck. So we try not to exhaust those before we get all that documentation.
Well, that's really good information. That's kind of what I was looking for, is how do you, what's the, the escalation process? Because I do hear that a lot even from our clients, like, yeah, they deny it, like, or Blue Cross Blue Shield, they'll deny it on the first time, every single time in this particular state. And we go back, we don't email, we call them on the telephone, and we appeal it with what you said, like, here's your requirements. We got it on your website from your documentation. The patient has met all of these. I want to talk to your supervisor.
Yep.
Absolutely. I think that's really important, that people understand, just because an insurance denies a claim doesn't mean they won't pay. Like, that's just, they're just going to see if you're going to give up.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, they are for-profit companies. There are no nonprofit insurance companies besides Medicaid that I'm aware of.
Yeah,
So you've
yeah,
got, there's that, they want to keep their money. So
yeah. All right,
yeah,
looks like we have a question.
sure.
It said, is there a way to get around the required sleep study? I find that 50% of my medical insurance covers without the study, 50% strong requirement. I find that 50% of my medical insurance covers without the sleep study, and then 50% strongly require it.
To the best of my knowledge, in order for you to be able to be paid, they have to have a sleep study with a diagnosis and a letter of medical necessity and an RX.
And
I'm not,
an active sleep study, right?
yes.
Yeah.
So sleep study, that's a whole mess too. So United Healthcare specifically in all states follow strict Medicare guidelines, which means the dental device that you select, the face-to-face prior to the sleep test, everything that Medicare requires, United Healthcare requires. We recommend any Medicare Advantage plans, you follow traditional Medicare's regulations as well. They won't tell you what parts they follow and what they don't. They say we follow Medicare regulations. So always follow that. I've never seen a device get paid for that there wasn't a sleep study already that had been processed with that insurance company and a diagnosis of an AHI greater than 5. So I don't know what the particular scenario might be. But to the best of my knowledge, they have to have that because insurance companies have these algorithms that they put in place. So what they look for is a string of certain things to happen in order for a claim to pay. So they're looking for a sleep study to have been done before they would even consider the dental device because it's a requirement. So if those things don't happen in sequential order, then your claim usually gets denied. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, so they're looking for certain things in particular order for those as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm not seeing any other questions. I'm surprised there's not more questions with how difficult insurance is. Here's what it says. I submitted claim in advance to TRICARE Blue Cross of Idaho Cigna with payment having no sleep study.
Huh. TRICARE.
That's
I
interesting.
don't know. Yeah, it is interesting.
Maybe
Yeah.
Idaho's a little looser.
Yeah, maybe it's the TRICARE area. I mean, one of the TRICAREs that may not require it. I've not seen that before, but I'm not saying it's
Yes,
not possible.
TRICARE retired.
Oh, TRICARE retiree. That in those particular instances, if you have like a self-funded policy, what a self-funded policy or a government policies are your TRICAREs and Medicares. But your self-funded policy, some big organizations like Ford, General Motors, United Airlines, things like that, they write their own policy and it's administered by an insurance company. So they may let some of those things process without, but generally as a group health plan for a commercial policy, it's very rare. I've not seen it. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying I've never seen it or encountered it.
Okay.
So,
all right.
And just as a reminder, Todd, everybody that's on tonight, Todd, if you'll either send me their email addresses or share it with us, we're going to send out a CE because we are a PACE and AGD CD or CE certified. So everybody's getting CE for tonight as well. Anybody has any questions, please let me know. I'll also include the MOOP calculator or maximum out of pocket calculator. I'll send that to you, Todd, as well. That way, please share that with anybody that you want to as well. If they have any questions, you could just tell them to follow up with me and I'll be glad to take their call and we can talk about it.
Yeah. And if there's currently anybody, watching this video, whether it's the recording or you're on live, one thing that Lisa and I had talked about is like, what can dental sleep profits offer people who are already using DS3? And we're happy to offer anybody that's currently using DS3 a 30-day free trial of dental sleep profits if you're not already a member of dental sleep profits.
Perfect.
And if you guys have any questions about signing up with DS3 or seeing if they might be a good fit, You got the contact info on the screen here, Albert at dentalsleepsolutions.com. And he can get you the information you need to make the right decision, essentially. So
Absolutely.
Lisa, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And yeah, send me those resources, and
Okay,
anybody
perfect.
on here, you have my email address. You can email me and ask for those resources that Lisa presented tonight on the webinar, and we'll get those sent out to you. So again, Lisa, thank you so much for hopping on.
Thank you.
And, I'm sure you'll be hearing from some people here soon.
Awesome. Look forward to it. If you need anything, Todd, don't hesitate to reach out as well. I've already talked with Dr. Yatros and Dr. Drake. They said anytime that you need them, you just let us know and we'll figure it out and make it happen.
Let's do it. All right. Thank you, Lisa. Have a great night.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
You too. Bye-bye.